Parents of Reddit, how do you feel when your kid brings back a girlfriend/boyfriend? How do you decide whether you like them or not? My eldest is 15, and boys in high school can be gross. The way they speak to girls and girls to boys is just so far out of line it makes me ill. But her boyfriend is respectful to her and her family. Most importantly, they're the same brand of weird. They FaceTime 19 hours a day, I swear. But yesterday they had an entire conversation about penguins, both using the same weird fake Russian type accent. He's her safe place, and without very good cause. I'd never get in the way of that. I have always instinctively known within seconds of meeting them. I've liked all but one of my son's partners, and the one I didn't feel right about was the one who messed him up. My dad is the same way, but he never freaking told me. After breaking off a 2.5-year relationship and a year of being single, I finally met my current GF. Only then my dad casually mentioned he saw red flags early on for all the shit that broke me and my ex up. WTF, man. Tell me this stuff. Not a parent, so I called my mom. She stated, and I quote, "I like all of them until they give me reason not to. Then I never tell you whether I like them or not, so I don't influence your own judgment. I cannot choose for you, although sometimes I wish I could. Mrs. Unappreciated Son." Edit. Spacing. It's about respect. If she treats him right, and compatibility. On the other end, not her dad, but my girlfriend's roommate is this old grizzled Marine dude. She told me that he liked me because I didn't try to get him to like, which apparently most people do. I was just myself and acted naturally, which he appreciated. Just be yourself, and the people that will like you, and the people who won't. But always be respectful. I said, whatever you do to my daughter, I will do to you. I've been stuck giving him emotional support and validation for 3 years. That freaking born out of a wedlock. My parents both instantly liked the first super nerdy boy I brought home. He didn't even have to talk before my dad was beaming at him. It was weird, tbh. I married the nerdy guy, so their instincts were good, so IDK, right? This happened to me too. I was having some doubts early on and expressed this to my dad after he first met him. His response was, "He's a nice guy, just date him." I was like, if you like him so much, dad, why don't you date him? Sure enough, I ended up marrying the guy. Not a parent, but my parents have talked about my boyfriends. They liked most of them, but my dad said there was one he specifically didn't like right away. I dated that guy for over a year before he cheated on me with his ex and left me for her. My dad said he didn't like that guy because he reminded him of his ex-wife, who did the same thing to him. My husband and I always like the person, unless there's something terribly wrong with them. First of all, we want our kids to trust us and never to disregard our not liking a potential mate, because we never like anyone. Secondly, we would never want our kids to feel like they have to choose. It's their mate, not ours. Thirdly, most young people are fairly okay, so no point in acting like no one can be good enough for our precious babies. You're so reasonable, can you parent all of us, please? Not a mother, but I'm a sister to a lovely brother. He had brought some girls in-house in his teenage years, and instantly I would know if I liked them or not. The first one Jeb brought was super rude with me and my parents. She would eat alone in the bedroom when we are having dinner, force my brother to be mean to me, etc. Few months after the relationship ended in a real bad way. After that brought some girls, didn't talk so much with them, but they were nice and sweet, didn't last long, less than 2 months. The last one she brought, when I talked to her, just one thought came to mind, she's the one. 5 or 6 years later, here they are, living together. She ate alone in the bedroom? Yeah, I'm wondering how that happened. Like everyone was sitting at the table and she just took her plate and went to the bedroom? So awkward. Well, my mother's decision is 90% based on if she's Catholic or not. Can't say I'm a fan of her method. My mom always said that it didn't matter what color or background, as long as she was Catholic. Well, turns out that he was Catholic. Checkmate. She got over it after a while. As a parent, the kids also need to learn for themselves. I can tell my son the answer to lots of things, but ultimately my son has to live his own life for himself. Giving him the answer is almost like letting the kid cheat at life, because he skips important steps. By doing so, he doesn't necessarily learn the right lessons or a complete lesson. My job is to help him figure things out, because fundamentally I'm not always going to be there for him when he is an adult. He needs to be able to solve his own problems. He can't do that if his solution to every problem is ask dad for answer. When you're not around, that becomes get someone else to do it, and nobody likes working for or with that guy. My stepdaughter's boyfriend came into my house and we were talking about computer games, and he had the audacity to tell me why Red Dead 2 was better than God of War in my house. But respect to the lad for that. He stuck to his principles and a year later still argues with me about gaming stuff. It's about respect. If they are treating my kid, spouse or myself like shit in our own home, how do you think I'll feel? Some politeness goes a long way, and of course it's a two-way street. Chances are you also know your kids well enough to notice if this person is a total 180 from their usual friends or previous or whatever. Sometimes a red flag, but not always. You've likely had experience with them bringing over someone from the wrong crowd, and this is honestly not that different. It's all about how you see them treat others, but since they are probably teenagers, you can't read too much into things like what they want to do when they grow up and so on. I'd hope by your 40s or whatever you'd know enough about how to tell if someone's head is screwed on properly or not. It's still important to let them explore and learn the odd rough lesson on their own. You constantly weighing in on how much you disapprove of their so only drives them further to them. Although you don't want to be too late to interfere if things are getting a little too out of control, like that dad who killed his daughter's boyfriend for getting her into hard drugs and ruining her life. Don't let it get there. At the end of the day, no one can get them to break up except themselves. They have to learn what's best for them and figure it out on their own. Don't meddle too much. The only way to a woman's heart is through her parents. Sleep with them and you're in. Edit. Geez, thanks, but you'll cancel on the upvotes. It wasn't that funny. I love to meet his girlfriends. In a very self-serving way, I think his ability to attract charming ladies reflects the quality of my parenting. On one hand, I like whoever brings joy to his life. On the other hand, I prefer to be around polite and well-spoken people. A bit of nervousness on her part indicates that meeting me is important to her. Knowing that being nervous about meeting family can be endearing is good to hear, as somebody who is a very nervous person in general. Okay, so as someone who's been the boyfriend made to meet parents, there is one meeting I always loved. The dad is sitting in the living room with me while his daughter is getting ready. Dude seems very approachable. He asks me about football, which where I live is a big deal. I tell him that I'm not into football and I would rather see the money go back into the community like the arts or social help. He looks at me and says that's what I wanted to hear. Then he points me to his record collection and says pick something good while Charlotte gets ready. So I'm looking through his record collection and there is a lot of stuff in there that I was already into. Lots of 80s/90s alternative rock. I notice he has Signals, Calls, and Marches, Mission of Burma and Stick. That on, he asks me why I picked something like that over a safe choice like Nevermind, Nirvana or Led Zeppelin 4. I just tell him because this is the album that got me into post-punk. TBH, my relationship with his daughter ended, but every time I seen him around town, he would always buy me a coffee and we'd talk about the best Scottish bands ever. It's never too late to date the dad. I don't have to like him. My daughter has to like him. Just like hairstyles. Doesn't matter if I like your hairstyle or not, you're the one who has to wear it. Now, if my daughter asks me advice or asks my opinion, I'll be honest with her, even if it may hurt, because I care about her and I only want to see her happy. But if I'm not asked, I will welcome the guy, be friendly and kind to him, and keep my opinions to myself. Why? Because she chose him, and if that makes her happy, then I'm happy. Not a parent, but my parents were always fine with my boyfriends. My dad had a sixth sense though. He not only knew on instinct which of mine were off, just off meeting them once, just off a feeling, so he never would have said anything to me, but he knew in 2 seconds of meeting him before junior prom that my best friend's first BF was super slimy and fake. And he was cheating on her. We found out months later. Generally though, I'd say my parents liked most of my boyfriends, but when I brought home my current one, they told me they loved him. And my mom later put it like this: all the other guys were fine, but we didn't seem like good matches. They knew on meeting this one that he was right for me. After a while, I think what you really want to look for from Slash's parents is that enthusiastic reaction of a good fit. My kids are small, but I basically raise my brother, 15-year difference, and his new girlfriend is unique. I'm trying to like her, but she is very much on the spectrum and get overwhelmed by my 4-year-old daughter. My little girl loves to hug people and doesn't understand why my brother's girlfriend freaks out when she gets too close. My brother, himself, has anxiety issues, and I worry they are feeding each other's negative emotions. It's hard to tell because she is shy, but she seems nice and makes my brother happy, so I'm doing my best, but it's hard not to have concerns. I can't really say anything to my brother because it sends his anxiety through the roof. His previous girlfriends were fine, but they weren't serious relationships. We have an usual method: we let the dog decide. Seriously. We have 2 small dogs, a boy and a girl. Our kids are of the age where they have a lot of friends over, including boyfriends/girlfriends. A lot of these are new friends are ones we are meeting for the first as the kids are entering into different groups/teams/social circles. The girl pup insists on being the center of attention and greets every visitor with unabandoned glee, jumping, licking, tail wagging, you get it. On rare occasions, we noticed her behavior with a new visitor would be drastically different. After a brief initial greeting, she will back up a few feet, appear hyper alert and bark continuously in a much higher tone like a high, panicky shrill. She avoids all contact with this person. We used to shrug/laugh off these interactions off as a one-off, but when she reacted the same way over and over with the same few visitors, we started to take notice. Over time, every one of those friend visitors turned out to not be friend-worthy by our kids in one way or another within a few months. So now, we don't worry about it. Maybe we've got a bad case of correlation bias, but for now, we let the dog decide, and she's never been wrong. I had a girlfriend in college. Gave me a piece of bacon and told me to put it in my pocket because it would help with the dog. Sure enough, I walked in, dog loved me, parents loved me. A year later her mother explained that if the dog doesn't like people, she never trusts them. We broke up eventually, but it was a fun relationship. Hey you! If you enjoyed this video, why don't you hit subscribe to stay updated with all our newest videos? And remember to have a fantastic day.